Transition this over. Hi, everybody. Welcome into the Salt City Hoops live postcast. I actually have the right score on the screen for the YouTube broadcast for once this time. Thrilled to be here. Another back-to-back one. We'll do a short little postcast to talk and hang in a little bit and recap this great win. So let me crack open this beer that we have here today. Another one from Four Noses, my favorite brewery. It's actually technically from their sister brewery, Wild Provisions Beer Project. I should have included that, but it is love my good Czech beers, and I hope you have a beer today on this Saturday night or a beverage of choice to enjoy more Jazz winning basketball. Well, this is going to be a good night. So welcome in. Jazz beating the Blazers on the road on a back-to-back. Damian Lillard did not return in the second half due to a calf strain or some sort of calf injury. Those can be quite nagging, so he might be out quite a bit. So that's a big loss for the Blazers. Jusuf Nurkic also did not play down the stretch, but he was sitting on the bench in warm-up, so not sure if he was just injured or what. I thought Nurkic was having a fine game, but his backup, Drew Eubanks, who I've always really liked as a third center in San Antonio, finally getting some stint as the primary backup center for Portland, and he had a quite a nice game, and he actually closed this one out. Utah ended up losing Mike Conley from what looked like a hyperextension of the knee, right? But he walked off, so you're not talking about a long-term season-ending injury or anything like that. This probably looks like an MCL strain or some sort of issue that's going to keep him out 2 months. So that is unfortunate, but I don't think that's a season ender for Conley. But we might have a little bit of tough sledding going forward without Conley as a good general on the court, just because the other primary ball handling options with Talen Horton-Tucker, Colin Sexton, and blanking and Jordan Clarkson, of course, the hero down the end. They have good ball handling skills, and Clarkson's improved his passing, but each one of them has some pretty significant flaws when it comes to just executing an offense and getting the ball in the hands of the more dependent threats on the team. Like even Lauri Markkanen has really, really depended on Mike Conley to feed him a bunch of baskets early and a bunch of baskets late. So we'll see how we fare from now. But for now, we have a win. Another one. The Utah Jazz, after how many games now? 16 games? Well, I've lost track of how many wins this team has. After 18 games, the Jazz are first place in the Western Conference at 12-6. And if those numbers don't sound immediately impressive to you, if you extrapolate that out, right, that's a 48-win season, or a 48-24, right? And so that extrapolates out to about a 55-win season, right? Like 55 and 27 or something like that, right? Like that's, or 54 and 28. Like that's a mid-50s win team. That's first place in the Western Conference. They're 11-3 in conference. They're 1-3 against the East. So you recall that East Coast road trip and losing at home to the Knicks. The Jazz sit atop the Western Conference. Two big heroes today. Kind of hard to decide between who actually is the captain of the hero train today. Malik Beasley, for the second day in a row, not just the second game, on the back-to-back, completely on fire from three again. He goes 6 of 14 from three, which is only 42%, but he had a bunch of them early and had license to shoot and really stretched the defense after that. And he was able to force it inside, and he goes a perfect 4-4 from 2-point range. So Malik Beasley was awfully impressive today from shooting everywhere on the court. Had one nice little assist, only one turnover, and he finishes a +3. Just a wonderful performance from him. I do think we got to give credit to Jordan Clarkson being also a hero. Man, I just can't decide who the hero is on this one. he goes 10 of 23 from the field, but he also scored 8, or maybe was it 10 straight at the end. Clarkson scores 15 of his 28 points in the fourth quarter. He goes 2 of 7 from 3, but more importantly, a gigantic 3 at the end to pull away. 6 of 6 from the free throw line, a couple big fuck you and ones towards the end there. He was sparking. He was really railing to the crowd. He was not happy Jordan Clarkson today. He was an angry man, and he had a great one. 6 turnovers and 4 assists. I think after Conley went down, Clarkson just really wasn't himself, and Taylor Horton-Tucker was the primary beneficiary of some of those point guard minutes, and he was kind of up and down. So like I said, we're going to have to see how that one goes, but those were the 2 heroes today. And ho-hum, Lauri Markkanen, 23 points, 10 rebounds. Right? Markkanen was quite steady throughout the game. He had a lot of points early. I think he had 15 or so in the first half. If I wanted to break it down by quarter here, I don't immediately have that option on me. Game charts. Maybe I can get here. There we go. So if I go to first half for Lauri Markkanen, 5 of 6 from the field and 15 points is what I think I'm looking at here. If I'm counting them up. Utah did not get completely roasted in the paint this time. I think that's in part due to Portland being a little bit of a exterior threat to score, but it was also just more solid, I think, perimeter defense. We put Jared Vanderbilt and Taylor Horton-Tucker on the ball handlers for Portland towards the end of the first half. Before Mike Conley got injured, he got injured early in the third quarter, but towards the end, he had 2 fouls, and in order to save him a little bit, Will Hardy pulled him out and had Taylor Horton-Tucker playing primary point guard, and THT was playing quite good defensively against Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons, and good, I think it's all relative, like still B-, still getting absolutely walloped on screens. Doesn't really have the speed to keep up with those guys, but he has the guile and the strength and a little bit of length to not get just completely blown by, which we've been so used to over the years for the Jazz. Like, it was a much easier watch to have a bigger body on him, and so I think Hardy recognized that and kept THT in for the rest of the second quarter. So the interior defense ended up good. So Portland had to rely on had to become more of an external threat. So Portland shot 49% of their shots today from 3. That would be in the 95th percentile of all games so far this year. That's just a massive amount of shots from 3, right? Utah I consider them an appropriately balanced team, and especially today, they shot 40% of their shots from 3, which would be 72nd percentile, which is still pretty good. But Portland shooting just a massive going from deep. I think that was just it doesn't exploit Utah's main weakness, which is defending the paint. And Kelly Olynyk had himself a weird game against Jusuf Nurkic. Like I said, I thought Nurkic was having a pretty good game on the interior. The only time Nurkic really struggled was when Olynyk baited him into a bad offensive foul, or Nurkic just missed a bunny. But I thought he had it going on the pick and roll and interior, and they just didn't go to it, especially after Lillard was out. So I don't know if it was just more of, okay, if Lillard's not going to be in the game, then a lot of what makes the pick and roll work with Nurkic isn't really going to be a thing. Not really certain of the issue there, but doesn't matter at the end of the day with the good win for Utah. Look at some of the other performances here before we get into some of the team-based stuff here. Let's see. I mentioned Olynyk, kind of a frustrating watch today, drawing fouls and committing a lot of bullshit. He had 3 blocks that were all kind of those weird, like, strip-style blocks that he wasn't exactly a fierce paint protector to that extent. Colin Sexton, only 20 minutes. Again, with Mike Conley being out, 20 minutes isn't exactly that much different than what you're going to get out of a regular performance, even if Mike Conley is playing. So only 20 minutes for Colin Sexton. And he was a team low -9. He was definitely one of the main contributors to when Utah had a 19-point lead in the third quarter and Colin Sexton was on the floor for pretty much all of the time in which Utah had that lead almost entirely erased. And in fact, Portland did take the lead in the fourth quarter, but they cut a 19-point lead down to 3 at one point, all on one go, and Sexton was a big part of that. It's a combination of turnovers, wild drives where he ends up careening to the basket, falling over, and even if the basket goes in, he's completely taken himself out of the play to make transition defense just completely irrelevant for him. Defense, he's got a lot of activity, and you have to look at Colin Sexton's defense like in the lens of what is he putting on the table versus what he's taking off. He's giving you a ton of energy. He high points rebounds. He tries really hard, but he commits enough mental errors where he completely loses a man or his effort just isn't good enough, right? Where it's like you can have all the effort in the world, but if you can't stay in front of your man by just physically moving your feet and being that kind of a player, your effort's not going to matter as much. And he's taking a ton off defensively, and the only reason he's still getting minutes, and the reason he's gotten minutes in the NBA so far, is on this team, his defense is just barely good enough to be like, okay, we can survive with you on the court if you're providing the good things you're doing offensively. And his offense was just kind of wild. Lack of intention. I counted 4 times today where he just did not run the play that was called, whether he either on ball or off the ball. He is totally he's totally the guy that claps for the ball when like the play just isn't designed for him at all, and that can really bork up an offense at times. He in Cleveland, he was used to, and again, bad coaching in Cleveland, right? It was just like, hey, Colin, go make plays. We're gonna win 18 games or whatever, and you're going to have a lot of fun scoring 24 points to do so. And to Sexton's credit, in Cleveland, those were a very efficient 24 points, right? He's very good at drawing fouls. He had a good 3-point rate and efficiency in Cleveland. And I do think he is a little bit of a feel player, right? Where if you get him 35 minutes or something like that, he's going to start figuring out the guys who are defending him. Like, hey, how is this guy playing me? And now he's tasked with saying, hey, you have 18 to 22 minutes to figure out how you're going to score and how you're going to set up your teammates. And it's possible that he just says, look, the only thing that I'm feeling right now is just taking my angles that I prefer taking, getting to the rim, or if I try to do a step back 3 in this circumstance, how is the defense going to react to that, to set him up for later moves in the future. And I wonder if that's part of his game. But in order to be a starting point guard, you can't just have 35 minutes of wildly careening into the rim to figure out where your offense is going to come from, right? You need to be able to set your teammates up from the tip. And I'm not sure he just has that vibe for me yet. And yeah, maybe it's a case where, hey, he's not starting and it's affecting his vibe. I don't really fucking know or care, but he's a limited player at this point. He's a young player coming off of an injury. And he's one of the more exciting players that I look forward to watching. He's just got a lot of growth for him. And I think we got to be very clear that these are growth opportunities for him. He's not 33 years old. What is his age? Is he 23, 24? Might be a little older than that. He's a 1 or 2 year player. He's 23. He was a 1-year player at Alabama. I'm confident in him. It's just, let's see what happens with Conley out. I hope, for the purposes of the team winning this year and in the future, that we give Sexton a little bit of rope, because I'm not sure Talen Horton-Tucker is the answer either. THT played 31 minutes today. I think he will be the primary beneficiary when it comes to minutes. But I feel very gross, and I've been very vocal about my criticism of THT early in the season, and I've been very vocal that I've been very impressed with him over the past 2 weeks. I think he's corralled his turnover tendencies. I think his defense has been way less shitty. He had 0 turnovers today. But with his limited scoring acumen, right? Like he's 0-2 from 3 today. And while I think he's a confident, better 3-point shooter than his percentages would indicate, I don't think you're getting better than 31% out of THT. Now, his willingness and his effort might lead into, you're playing an average defense game after game. They might not read the scouting report. You might catch some defenses off guard and guard them a little bit better than they should. But part of what makes Mike Conley in his old age so great, old age, he's barely older than me. I turned 32 on Monday. Is his shooting stroke, right? Like if he's going to shoot the basketball the way he does, or purportedly have like a 40%, 3-point shot in his bag, it really opens up how Mike Conley can get to the rim a little bit slower these days. And THT doesn't have that sort of acumen, nor does THT really have a good floater game, right? He's got a pretty... he's got a real physical fadeaway, and you don't think of a fadeaway as a physical move, but he really burrows in, and with his long length and his long strides, he actually burrows in and creates a real violent fadeaway where he just kind of laser beams it at the rim. So it's a nice little fadeaway, but it's not the same thing as a driving floater. Horton Tucker's layup package is what it is. Right, he's going to have those weird scooping layups with his length and everything, but there's going to be nights where that doesn't fall in. So I'm currently terrified of 35 minutes, 33 minutes of THT playing point guard. And I'd like to see it like 24-24. You don't want Nickeil Alexander-Walker playing point guard. I'm just going to nip that right in the bud. That's why he failed in New Orleans. He was not a point guard at Virginia Tech. He was a defensive gunner. He's supposed to be a good 3-and-D guy with some good verve off the dribble, and he was forced to play point guard for a limited New Orleans team, and that completely was a fucking nightmare. Don't want him playing point guard at all. Could see some Leandro Balmaro, right? He's more of a ball handler, distributor type, but I would much rather see 24 of THT, 24 of Sexton. And let Clarkson handle the ball a little bit. See if Malik Beasley can stretch his game a little bit, right? So Malik Beasley said, like, I want to be an all-star or whatever. If he can show some chops in the distribution game, that'd be interesting. But that's not really going to be his game. I'd like to see more marketing initiation. I've been begging for a marketing Olynyk pick and roll since this season started. I don't think we've seen one once. So I think THT is limited. I think THT right now is actually a better overall player than Sexton, but Sexton's ceiling is just way higher. So I'd like to see more of Sexton. And as far as starting, I kind of like the idea of THT coming off the bench still. I like the idea of him coming in, and he plays older than his years, and it's not just because he's balding. I actually just think he has a little bit of an old man game with his limited shooting, whereas Sexton, being the tertiary option to Clarkson and Markkanen, I think could really settle down his game and say, hey, this is the play you're running. And it's easier for a guy like that to say, all right, I have to set up my all-star candidates. That's a wild fucking thing to say right now. The all-star candidates. Jordan Clarkson and Lauri Markkanen. It's one thing to set those guys up versus just coming off the bench, and you got Simone Fontecchio and Walker Kessler out there, and you're saying I'll just take it myself. I think it'll be a little bit. I prefer Sexton to start, but I know we'll probably see THT starting against the Clippers on Monday. That's my point guard analysis for now. Walker Kessler was fine. Still kind of I'm really been not super thrilled with his past few games. I think he got muscled a few times. Had a couple nice offensive rebounds, which was nice. 3-3 from the field after being 0 of 3 last night. Jared Vanderbilt had a very Jared Vanderbilt game. 7 points, 9 rebounds. Plus minus of 14. 0-2 from 3. I like the fact that he's taking them. I think the only threes that Vanderbilt takes are these corner threes. And we've seen this going back to Enes Kanter and Trevor Booker and Derek Favors. Stretching these non-shooters out to teach them, like, hey, can you shoot a corner three? Look, the defense is just never going to honor it. And it needs to be a 40% shot. Just bar none. And right now he's over 40%. I think he was 50% on those coming in, so maybe he's dipped below 40 on the low volume. But I'd rather him just not take him if he's not gonna. That's not gonna be in his bag. A few different times, I think 3 or 4 times, Vanderbilt had the ball completely unguarded at the elbow. Like, just, he had Nurkic on him or Eubanks on him, and he was just being completely unguarded. The first time that happened, he drove to the rim and had a wild creating layup that had no prayer of going in, but he drew the foul, right? Because he used the speed to get to the rim and just draw a foul. It was actually a pretty good contest by Nurkic. It was pretty close to not being a foul, but Nurkic was kind of... He tried to go straight up, but his forward momentum carried into Vanderbilt a little bit. Draw the foul. The other couple times, Vanderbilt was just looking for someone to pass to. And when we talk about Vanderbilt being like, all right, what can he be on the next Jazz squad? Right now, I'm seeing a guy who's like, 15-minute a game energy guy. He fits so well with Markin and Olynyk because those guys just are not super great rebounders. I've been pretty impressed with Markin racking up 10 a game recently and over 8. I would have certainly said he would get 6 or 7 rebounds a game this year. Vanderbilt fits well with them because he's able to soak up all those other rebounds that those guys can't get, especially Olynyk, who's just not a great rebounder for a center. But going forward, Vanderbilt's got a lot of offensive feel limitations, right? He's got license to bring the ball up the court, and he does so with he'll get a good defensive rebound or he'll get a steal, and he'll shoot the ball up the court. And then he doesn't really do anything with it. He has no finishing at the rim capabilities to, like, if he's got a guard or a smaller player who's backing up at the rim on the fast break and Vanderbilt's got the ball, I have no faith that Vanderbilt can rise up over him and get a finger roll, right? That needs to be in his package. He's got the speed and he actually has good smarts on the fast break to not turn the ball over. But usually what he does is and this is a skill, brings the ball out quickly and finds a real ball handler to set up a better play. But I would love Vanderbilt to have that be a part of his game, to actually finish those fast breaks on his own, or at least, don't make that pass until you actually get into the teeth of the transition defense. So that's something that can improve. If he gets the ball wide open in those circumstances, like, there are ways, you don't have to just be a wide open non-shooter. There are ways to leverage that space that defense is giving you and I will say Vanderbilt is exceptional at not having charges drawn against him. He recognizes really well when a defender is like setting him up to just be careened into. Let's say if he was playing against Kelly Olynyk in practice, it might have helped him kind of learn that skill a little bit. He doesn't have that wide open kind of dribble game to say, like, all right, I'm going to use my speed and I'm not going to shoot this, but I'm going to find a way to really pressure this and force a pass on the interior or have a kick out, because anyone flying at full speed towards the rim is going to be a threat to the defense. And so there's just some small improvements we can see out of him to make him just a better player for the future, right? He's fine for what he is right now, for like what this iteration of the Jazz is, game in and game out. But as much as I enjoy them winning and being top of the Western Conference, we still have to think about every game. Every game is an analysis of what matters to this team next year, the year after that. And right now I'm seeing a guy who's just kind of a trade candidate for someone who thinks highly of him, or a guy who's really just going to end up being an 8th or 9th man on the next good Jazz squad. So we'll see. Sonny Fontecchio, I love it. I love having him in the game. I'm sorry, I'm a big fan. His first shot was he drilled a 3 off the dribble. Loved watching that. His first defensive possession, he gets a steal. He runs the fast break all the way to the cup, and he had a tough contest against him, and he missed the fast break layup. But I believe it was cleaned up for a bucket by, I believe, Kessler, who, to Kessler's credit, I've been kind of disappointed in him, but his hustle's been up there. Unlike his first couple games back from sickness, his hustle's kind of back now. Fontecchio missed the rest of his shots, but I loved all the shots he took. He turned down a shot to pass it to a more open Colin Sexton, who nailed the corner 3. I just think his decision making is excellent. and I love watching him play. I'm glad he's getting the confident 12 minutes in Rudy Gay's place. Without Conley, I don't know how that really changes the rotation at all, because if you're giving THT more minutes at point guard, now you have more forward minutes available. We'll see if Agbaji comes back and from G League stints and plays a little bit, although he's been real butt for the G League lately. I've been tweeting about his G League stats, which have been absolutely ghastly for Agbaji, but like he also played okay in his couple NBA games so far, so we'll see about that one. So that's the rundown for the team today. 4 factors. Utah had a great points possession, 114.3. That's above average. Didn't shoot very well, 51.7% effective field goal percentage. Above average is about 52, 53. They did not cough the ball up as much as it seemed. They had 13 turnovers, which is totally acceptable. I think it felt like a lot because, Jordan Clarkson had 6. Markkanen had a couple completely awful turnovers. But overall, I mean, if THT is giving you 0 turnovers and Mike Conley is giving you 0 turnovers and Olynyk's only giving you 1 offensive foul that gets counted as a turnover, you end up with 13, and that ends up actually quite good. If you have 14 or fewer, that's very, very good. Offensive rebound percentage, it felt like Josh Hart was all over the place today. And Portland finished with a 32% offensive rebound percentage. It's about 1 in every 3 shots, right? Ends up as an offensive rebound. That would be 76th percentile. And Utah was just about average there. Free throw rate, nothing impressive. Portland got more free throws today, but not a discrepancy worth noting about. This officiating crew is these individual officials are not showboats the way you kind of recognize the Kane Fitzgeralds and such of the NBA, where you're going to remember how shitty of a ref they are. They're not like that. But this is not the most experienced crew, or not the best crew. A lot of them have been doing G League stints, and they were brought in from COVID last year. I do believe that the officials still do have COVID protocols, and there's a couple refs that I've seen lately that I have not seen an NBA game yet, so we had some interesting calls today. But this was a fun one. Had a really nice game today. This was great. Loved how Utah shot the ball too. Interior, exterior. 40% of their shots are at the rim. 40% of the shots are from 3. That's great offense. And the mid-rangers were all in rhythm, or end of the clock, or just good feeling like, hey, this shot's open for me, I'm going to take it. You can't tell a team to shoot exclusively at the rim or exclusively from perimeter. So I did like their mid-range today. And they hit them too. They were hitting their mid-range shots today, and that'll help complete the game. The final thought I'll leave today with is the resiliency of this Jazz team. They are winning so many of these close games. And if you think about last year, how many of these games that they had a big lead and choked it away, and what ended up happening? They would lose a lot of these games, and they were winning so many close games. The Jazz have not been blown out yet this year. In the Nuggets game, they ended up losing by 16. That's kind of a blowout, but they were in it pretty late. They had that Nuggets game was probably their worst one, but other than that, they have not been blown out ever. And their wins, they win some games where the opponent is trying to come back and get that win, and they still are fighting. So if I'm counting these up real quick, I'm going to try to count the wins and losses that the Jazz have when it's 3 points or fewer is the margin. Let's see, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins to 1 loss for 3 points or fewer. And a lot of those other wins and losses are 5, 6, 7 points, where the difference is like a garbage time bucket or something. That's great. That's good resiliency. Now, a lot of that's Mike Conley. We're not going to have Mike Conley for, I would bet, about 6 to 8 weeks. We'll see. Those 8 assists are going to be so hard to replicate to 10 points. Only 1.5 turnovers a game for Conley. We'll see how that gets replaced and see if that resiliency continues. I think this team does have that resiliency down across the board with good players who are descended to play good winning basketball, and they play hard the whole time. Next game is going to be at the Clippers on Monday. 8:30 Mountain. It's my birthday on Monday, so I might do a postcast, celebrate with y'all. But until then, I'll let y'all go for the rest of the night. Catch that Utah football. I'm sure most of you are watching, and I'm going to kick up and enjoy this Jazz win a little bit more. All right, y'all have a good night.